welcome to this first module for this third open call of Designscapes on scaling. And as you can see, the model today is about using reflection to approach your future steps in your project. But first, a little bit of introduction, then we'll explain, of course, to go deeper into why this seminar and why reflection. So we are a bigger team. I am Alberto Magna, researcher from who joined quite recently, the team of TU Delft researcher. But we are a big team, so there's Ingrid Mulder, associate professor, who could not join today. Same from TU Delft, Alicia Calderón Gonzalez, and Chiara Marradi, and Maria Buchenmeier. I hope I pronounced it well. So this is kind of the dream team of researchers from TU Delft for Designscapes. And a little bit of agenda of today. So first of all, why reflection in DI projects? I will go quite quickly into indeed what we think about reflection as a research team, what we found out, and why we decided to share this knowledge with you guys regarding doing a design-enabled innovation projects like yours. So why we think it's relevant, and then quite quickly going hands-on to reflect about your project. So we wanted to make it practical because we also found out that it's about practice rather than only theory. And that's why we decided to formulate this first module as a group activity on Miro, quite interactively with everybody participating. And then of course at the end, by 11:35, let's say, we will go back, or we'll do it directly on Miro to have your thoughts and opinions on the activity itself, a bit of feedback, and to ask indeed your ideas on this and how it went. To close up by around close by to 12, and looking forward to the coffee break that is actually tomorrow. So some super simple tips to begin with. Of course, just to as a Zoom experience. Of course, if you have questions in the chat, we are many, as you can see. So we are 4 today, and we can definitely keep a look at the chat. So feel free if you have any questions to put them there, and we will keep an eye during the whole session, also during the activity on Miro, for whatever need you have. And whenever you don't want to speak, please keep your microphone muted, so we will go super fluently along with the session. All right. So as mentioned in the first part, why reflection on design-enabled innovation projects? So we decided to make this module, and we decided to make it now, taking the chance of the moment, which is the one in which you're starting off your scaling phase. That means that this is an opportunity to look from distance at what your journey will be and also what it's been so far. And that means reflecting, so taking a step back and also thinking of the challenges ahead and what are your capabilities to tackle them. In this way, picturing what could be the tricky parts that you may need to focus on. And then, of course, the main goal is to better prepare for them. So when we talk about reflection, we talk more about reflective practice in this situation, let's say. So there's been studies in literature about reflective practice associated with innovation. So it's actually a process that at times is even unconscious for practitioners, that innovators use, so designers, architects, engineers amongst them, to better understand a new situation and how to approach it. How do they do it? So as you kind of see from the picture in an abstract way, let's say, innovators do so by exploring the challenge that they need to tackle, that we could be calling a problem space, and a series of possible ways to do it, so solution space, in a process that kind of goes back and forth. So the more back and forth, so the more loops are made in this reflection between what is the problem and what could be the solutions, the more refined and defined become both of them. So both the challenge and the possible solutions to tackle it. A concrete example could be the prototyping phase of your project. So for example, you have a challenge indeed, and you have a problem to solve that we in the scheme we could say it's P1. So what do? You try something out that is an initial solution. We could say it's S1, let's say in the figure. And what you find out testing is that this solution kind of solves your initial problem, but only solves it partially. What does that mean? That it emerges another more specific problem that you didn't think of before as a challenge within the challenge. So it's P2 in this case. So a second problem that is exactly what can happen also through a reflective activity. And we'll see more about later. What is next step then? You find a newer challenge. You can then creatively act with newer solutions to tackle it. So to wrap up this first, let's say, theoretical background, we see reflective practice as a tool for designers. As a tool for designers to better understand their coming challenges. And it works so that by looking what you can do from the past and identifying what are the new challenges that lay ahead, this the goal is to frame better what are the tricky parts and then how to best prepare to act upon these. For example, acquire new competencies, contacting relevant stakeholders, in general, planning the strategic steps that can help us achieve those. As I said before, we didn't want to keep this theoretical, but we wanted you to experience it firsthand. So let's take your project as an example. And to do that, we prepared a reflective online activity, which is based on a work of co-creation with the previous goals of the project. So the initiatives, some initiatives from the second call of Designscapes. And this is meant to be a support, so a supporting tool when approaching a coming phase of your project, which is, for example, the one you're right to approach now. And it helps to look at the milestones ahead of your project to better understand what could be challenging for you and strategize steps to approach them. At this point, well, I will quickly introduce Miro just in case, uh, yeah, it's unfamiliar or new for you. So we're gonna hold this activity on a collaborative online whiteboard tool, which is basically a gigantic online whiteboard. And we prepared a template for each project. So the steps will be the following. We will send the link on the chat in a moment, right after the presentation. And when you're in the board, you can check out the How to Miro, which was also shared, I think, yeah, yesterday on the Facebook group. So this just in case you need some quick instructions on how to move, but we are such a little, I mean, such a few people that we actually can go through it quite easily if needed. So no problem for that. And then just, yeah, choose one template and put your name on it. After that, I'll scan through the template quickly over here, and then we'll see it also on Miro. So these are three main steps in your own individual project template. So the first one is about pinning down the milestones that you have completed so far in your projects and the ones that are ahead of you. So just putting down on timeline these milestones and then try to reflect on them on whether they can be manageable or more complex or more challenging, and then doing that by adding emojis on them in order to pass on to the second part, which will be more about reflecting on one of them. So you pick one from the first one and you go on with that on the second one, and you go on describing it. So you describe it, you explore what will be the challenge and what it will take to achieve it. So what are the challenges that might arise for you to achieve that milestone? Once you've done it, we'll have a short moment of sharing reflections and challenges that that we are finding through the template. And then we'll go ahead with the third part, which is about thinking about what's been previously our experiences with something similar. So by achieving this task in the past and finding out whether and to what extent we are capable now to do the same, or we need to change approach and hence find out that there are actually hidden challenges within the challenge and that we need to address in this moment. We will end up with a shared template in which after this initial individual part, we will put in each of us the challenges that we found. And the aim would be to cluster them and then to discuss through prompting questions and quite freely on possible concrete steps that we would like to tackle them. So we really would like to end up this session and not by staying abstract, but trying as soon as possible and as well as possible, as good as possible, to formulate strategies to go ahead with your project. So I think now we can pass on Miro.
I shared the
And
link in the chat.
okay, perfect. We have Elisa who joined as well.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
Okay.
Can you all access the link?
Yeah, I am there.
Okay.
And Alberto,
Yes.
how should we choose who is who? What project template do we take?
So actually, you could choose the color you like best. It's not really a problem as long as you don't
Right.
choose the same. But I think today we won't have that issue.
Yeah, okay. Should I put my name on where it says project?
Yes. So please, the first thing, once you've chose one, you can click on it says project 1, 2, or 3, etc. You can double click and put your name on it. And then I forgot to ask before, so are you all familiar with Miro, or is it best if we do a yes? Okay. Then cool, we can start right away with that. Okay, so just let me know when you all are done. I see Alicia, I see ticket to change. Did the others choose a color for the project?
Aldo, you will observe, right? And Elisa, do you have a...
Okay. So now we have to fill in one of the projects.
So yes, first you pick one template, and if you can please put the name of your project on it so we can easily recognize it.
Okay. Right.
Okay. All right, so if you're ready, we are ready. And I will set a timer for this first part. So then just to check then all together when we can pass on to the second template. If I don't mistake, yes, so we will have 3 projects going on. So we have Agroplata, we have Ticket of Change, and we have Alicia reflecting on Designscapes itself. So I will start a timer now of 10, from 5 to 10 minutes, let's say. and see how it goes. So you're free to start with the first template.
With the first section of the.
With the first
the
section,
template.
sorry. So
Okay.
pinning down the milestones, yes.
Okay.
And if you have any questions or something is unclear, you can just either write it in the chat or just unmute and
Yeah.
ask.
And maybe, Alberto, for the sake of the recording of the session, can you share your screen to the Miro? And that way we can see.
Yes, that's a good one.
You can, for example, record the overall or me, or I don't care.
Yes, yes. Here we go.
Mm. Sorry, how do you take the emojis to the?
Oh, yes.
I know how to
I will fix that in a second. Ah, wait. Yes. So, yes, I'm putting it there because, yes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
And I will give them also to the other two in a second.
Copy them also.
Okay. So here they are. And here they are also for Alicia. Okay, so do you feel ready to pick one to go ahead in the second part of the template? I see Alicia,
Yeah.
maybe.
I'm still putting the
Okay.
emojis.
Yes, we have 3 minutes left, no worries.
Okay, I think I'm done.
Okay, then perfect. Just pick a future milestone of your project that you would like to reflect on and copy it from the timeline to the following section in the first box you see on the left. So this section, as said before, is meant to reflect on it and explore what it will take to achieve this. And I will just set a timer again, and then you're free to go. And at the end of it, we will share a bit what we put as our answers.
This is what's difficult, selecting one. One of the future ones, right?
Yes.
And we write the answers on the under the question in Postits or however we want. Can also be.
I think however you want. Of course, if you write it in, yeah, you can continue copy pasting post-its and if you want to,
Okay.
but it's
Okay.
not mandatory. There might be, yeah, maybe issues of readability if they're not on post-its, but
Mm.
You can create new post-its if you go to the left of your screen. Oh yeah, or copy paste existing post-it.
Of course, if there are questions that are not clear, just feel free to ask. So I see Elisa and Julia. Julia is seems done with her part. Am I right? Good. And then Elisa is also refining. And Alicia is almost done as well. All right. I see also Alicia seems done with her part.
Yes.
Okay. So if Elisa wants to add something more, just feel free. We have time. Otherwise, we can start sharing. Okay. So then I would ask you to, well, unmute, and whoever wants to share with the group a little bit what you found in these sections. So what you found about your milestone and the possible challenges that are there. So what you need to tackle and what you need to be good at to achieve it. Who wants to start?
I can start.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to talk about Ticket for Change, and just to give a really brief scenario, Ticket for Change is a project that is already ongoing in France. And the idea is, with their help, to scale everything in Sicily. They already have in mind to do so. So we are matching them in the real moment in which they are also understanding how to transfer that. And during the process of Designscape, we identified certain milestones that are quite important for us. Some of them are really related to design, which is our strong point because both of us are talking about that. Others are more general about how you work with project. So, for example, in the timeline that we identified, there are three main milestones that are the one also that we identified for Designscape, that are specifically the transfer of the business model, the transfers of the operation, and the transfer of the community engagement. I have to say that personally, I don't feel too much afraid about the part of community engagement because we have experience in that, and also about operation. The part that scared me the most is the business model part. Maybe because I don't come from that background, so every time we are talking about financial things, I'm always a bit
I think it's always scary for everybody.
yeah. And knowing that it's an important milestone, because right now we are like under the umbrella of Designscape, we are going to set in space everything, but if we don't find the financial sustainability in the long term, at the end of the day, we don't know what we are going to achieve. So that's why I decided to open up on this topic. So yes, the future milestone is that one, and here I have my answers. So what it is about, I say that is about finding similar actors to involve and to access to fund an opportunity. So since Ticket for Change in France already access some funds, checking what was similar and what we can find in the Italian context might be the starting point. How we are going to involve and address people. So for me, addressing, it's like the needs and desire to involve the mentors, meaning the structure of people in Sicily that are working in entrepreneurship, that are innovative and ecological, that want to be involved in it. And what is their gain? Because communicate that is not just part of a fancy project, but is also something that can be functional for them, is going to be something that we have to address. On the other hand, we need the involvement on foundation, association, networks, and supporters that can give financial feasibility to the project. And those are two different targets, according to my vision so far. And due to COVID situation, I think everything will take place on the online realm, meaning email, Zoom, meetings, whatever, everything remote. That makes me think that sometimes when you're talking about, especially traditional industry, it's a bit hard to get their trust when you're communicate only remotely. But maybe it's a bias that I will disconfirm afterwards. And when we are talking about resources, as internal resources, we are going to use the connection that we have on a territory, plus research and time and effort to discover the one that we don't know yet. As an external resources, as I said, the financial support benefit and the clear goal that they have in mind when they are joining this part. So in this vision, this milestone will be successful if we actually can create a network of talents that are the people that are going to join the journey of Ticket for Change, and the mentors that are the ones that are coming from that landscape that are sharing vision and interest. So when we create a meaningful relationship, that will be the milestone that we are achieving. And what is a key aspect to take into account is the financial feasibility of this exchange. So what is the price that are willing to pay the people that are onboarding on this journey, and what is the financial benefit that those people showing their industry will get. And what approach and strategy we can achieve, it's like applying for those traditional calls that are for supporting the economy in a more like traditional way, and to build on long-term cooperation with bank, foundation, and financial stakeholder that can be the supporter of the project. I keep insisting on that because especially in the business plan of Ticket for Change France, there are a lot of institutions from that side. But that comes also from a context in France in which banks and other financial institutions are deeply involved in the economy of the space. And what I think we must be good at is communicate efficiently our idea for different targets. Meaning for the mentors to get on board, to understand that it's going to be an opportunity to also share their knowledge and build upon their knowledge, but at the same time having a more traditional tone of voice when we are talking with banks to make ourselves feeling like we know what we are doing, we are reliable, it's a good project, give us money. So something like that. And yeah, something that I want to share is like, sometimes I feel, I mean, I really believe in the project. I think is really good, but I think that the aspect of the financial long-term action is a bit of a wild card that I can control until a certain point. And on another sense is something just that is going to happen. So that's a thought that I had in mind.
Nice. Super interesting. Thanks a lot. Do the others want to add on this or maybe comment on something interesting before sharing their own?
I wanted, I don't know if I'm muted or no. I wanted to say that I recognize my own challenges multiple times, so that's quite funny. Yeah, so you had a post-it that I thought, yeah, sorry. Well, for starters, the whole element of like the online communication and how that plays a role in creating these new contacts or like trust with new relationships that you have to build for your own project. I think that's something we are all trying to figure out, and it's super tough because it's just not the same. It's not the same level of engagement that you can get, or like, yeah, that initial contact in which you are building the trust with someone on a professional setting is really different. So yeah, just kind of how much, I just wanted to say how much I shared the pain when you said that. Basically, and I still didn't figure it out. I don't know if any of us has, but I guess it's on the one hand trying to be even more clear about what you want, but also tying it back to your final comment to really be good at pitching your own your own project and what you are trying to achieve with it. And yeah, I was just thinking, because I come from the design world, and pitching an idea is super important, and we're constantly bombarded with how you have to learn to do that. And honestly, I just remember like, oh, I have to check back on all that stuff, because now with these online layers of complexity in communication or awkwardness, you have to be even more sharp at pitching everything. So yeah, I was just thinking on that.
Yes, if I can add something, I
Sure.
think that sometimes when we are pitching project in person, and then we can elaborate more and also show the fun part of certain project, it communicates something different that sometimes on the online realm you don't want to share because you're afraid that you will look unprofessional, while somehow is actually doing the opposite, because it put like a personalized layer of your idea and you can connect more on the emotional level. But I still don't feel comfortable to do it online, so I think we are really sharing the same aspect of it now.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so maybe Alicia, you want to quick guide us through what you found as challenging for you, and then we can ask also, of course, Elisa, if she wants to do the same.
Sure, I am on the green board. So
yes, I can bring everyone here.
Nice. And I was thinking about like at the end of my involvement on the project of Designscapes. So what's funny here is that there's Designscapes and then there's what the TU Delft University team has to do, and that's kind of like a parallel thing. So I was just thinking more from that perspective, because that's the Designscapes is a really big project with a lot of people involved, but that's only the part that I can kind of fully understand, let's say, or like fully have a grasp on. So I sort of like, okay, one of our initial ideas of what would be a good way of wrapping up the work that we are doing on understanding better design-enabled innovation from the university and academia perspective, but also as educators. So it would be to have a platform where we can host all these resources that we figure out with the process and with the conversations with the initiatives, that they are valuable when you are trying to set up and evolve and develop an initiative in the urban context that is innovative and that is using design, or that is using some sort of design. So having a platform to host those resources, that was my milestone that I selected. And then I honestly went into a process, or like a detailing process that I didn't thought I would get to, so that's nice. Then in what it entails to try to picture more concretely, it was really nice to start thinking about internal and external resources in those terms, because you often realize, oh, I have not actually engaged or tap on this group of people that probably are really good help to us, because you always think of your team, that there may be some partners around that also have a lot to say for such a thing. And then one obvious group that I think is what I kept on after that, of people that we definitely have to take the most out of, is collaborating with all of you guys with the actual initiatives of the project, because you are the practitioners and basically you are the people that host all the knowledge of practice on what is valuable in terms of resources or like tools and methods, but also just topics that are important. And well, what you just, Julia, discussed, for example, like I can imagine business models and all the financial aspects is an important, a super crucial side of things. And that's what we can understand, but there's a lot of things that from the theory of the university we will never understand, that you guys as practitioners know. So collaborating with the community and learning as much as possible from them, that's a really big part of this. Then define what is most important for you to obtain and why. I think this is what I just said. This is like the best way possible for that platform to be, is if it's really accessible and meaningful to the exact people, so that it has a meaningful selection of content, because there's so many already out there on the internet. So this is more hopefully a curated selection from what's already out there. So what will be the key aspects to take into account? I think this is more what I was stressing before. So on the one hand, that we have meaningful insights of what it really is to do design-enabled innovation in practice. So what it really means to fight to make these initiatives work. And of course, the part as a designer that the platform has a decent level of usability and desirability. And then for the main thing, for like having meaningful insights of what practice is. I think it's, to be successful, we need to collaborate with the community and having a proper exchange of knowledge. So that it's not only like we propose things to an empty void and then we don't know if that was valuable or not. So that open conversation of like, okay, what is it that you guys are experiencing? And is this that we think can be meaningful, indeed meaningful or not? Then what is the approach that we can follow to achieve this? And I finish quickly. Well, I think it's all about opening this dialogue with the community and like hearing about their learnings and their experiences, but also their challenges. And this is quite complicated because, like I said before, it has always been an online type of communication because it's with people from all over Europe, and that makes it so impersonal and so difficult to create that sense of coming together to share the same, because we share the same objectives. So to share experiences about that's really difficult, and we still don't do that successfully. So what must we be good at? And I finish here. Well, obviously engaging the community. That's really broad, but I think I detail it more by thinking about, okay, we have to facilitate their interaction so that they also find value in understanding each other's process and struggles or successes in the initiative, and learn from each other, and that we are just there facilitating that and learning from the whole thing. And I'm out of that creating valuable content for them also. So kind of this loop of exchange of learning. And that's it. Sorry, I talked a lot. But to me it was good to take something so like straightforward as produce a platform of resources to realize that the main issue is again about trust, about creating relationships with people in an online era. So yeah. I also have to be good at pitching why we are doing this, I guess. But that's it for me, Alberto.
I think you're muted, Alberto.
Yeah, I don't hear you.
All right. Yes. No, I was saying super cool insights and thoughts also shared with the previous case. Now we can go on with Elisa and then see what she got, and then finalize with the last section of the template.
Okay, so well, my project is Aeroplaza Quiriquinho, which is a collaborative design with the local agents for the design of a square in Bilbao.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so we have already made some meetings with the local agents, the cultural property, the communication of the project is already in the local media, and the local authorities are very engaged with it. So that's going very well. And then now this week on Thursday, we have the second session, that is the co-creation session, when we will discuss with the agents about the uses of the square. And Aeroplaza, the thing is that Aeroplaza is about making a furniture, like a urban furniture with ecological systems that can be very different. That we have some systems that work with water, for example, because they get rainwater, or that they work with more technical or electronic things, because they work with energy and taking energy like from solar panels, but also with pedaling, with making energy from human.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have like a very wide variety of systems that we can use.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that the next steps are going to be more to design these prototypes again from the ones that we had in Europlaza, because we are scaling Europlaza project. So yeah, the design, and also for that, as we to find the technical builders, because we have Protec, which is a local builder that builds with wood, but they don't know how to, all these things about electronical things, or yeah, all that. Yeah, so that is why these things about the design and that is what I find like more difficult. So yeah, because then afterwards we will install the systems, and then we will test them with the people and everything. So yeah, I think it's like easier. So that is why I chose finding technical builders for the prototypes, because also because we have, although we have already done more projects here in Bilbao, but we have always worked with very like experimental people, like people that experiment more electronic artists, as this is like a very experimental project. So, but this time, as it is going to be in a square and it has to be really permanent, that's why. The thing is like it's difficult because there is not like many people that makes it. So so the milestone is that we still depend on the systems. The thing is that we cannot start looking for them because we don't know really what we are going to build until we finish with the participation, with the co-creation session that we have. So it depends on that. And then what we are going to do, I think, is to, I don't know, to ask previous collaborators and try to find a solution to find who can help us with that. And when we are going to do that, well, just next week or the week after. And what is the most important for me to obtain, and why? The thing, like, we need like someone that is specialized and that is reliable. We hope we find, so that is why afterwards I started thinking about that maybe that the key aspect is to choose from the co-creation session. We have to, maybe we can choose something that responds to the needs of the community, but at the same time doesn't need a lot of maintenance and is like easy to build and to, because this time, like, the more difficult thing is that they think of the maintenance, because it will depends on the city hall. So it's going to be difficult. And what approach strategy can you follow to achieve this? To simplify and to put the effort and for the furniture that is going to be useful and it's going to be beautiful also, and that is easy to maintain. And so we have to be good at designing the furniture, and about how it is going to be used. So maybe it's not so much about being worried about the people, but if we also choose and design the thing very well, it's going to be easier to find someone that can work with that. And that we have to do something that is useful, because sometimes with this type of projects that we have made, like a lot of this kind of project, it's very difficult to find something that is, it's difficult to make something that is really innovative, but at the same time, you're going to put it in the center of a square, So it's going to be, it's not so easy to make something that really works well, but at the same time, it's really innovative. So this time, I think we have to think a lot about the reliability of the thing and the strengthness and the maintenance. So that is.
Okay. Does someone have anything to comment on this? Did you find anything interesting that might relate also to your own project in a way? Or your own reflections, I don't know.
Well, I think I can relate about the reliability of the person that you want to involve in the project when you don't know, as we were saying before, when you don't know in person who they are, the values that they have, etc. It's really hard to find the right people for the right project. So I totally relate with that. And I wish there was a sort of like schedule in which you can meet someone and see the previous project that they did and see how they work together, so you can build already like a network for this. Because especially when we are talking about construction of certain things, all your project can just fall on a minor detail, and that can be really like upsetting.
Yeah, yeah, that is. I think also that we can, I would like to find someone that is like from around, like a local, no? But because before we have work also in Madrid a lot, so we know people in Madrid. So if we don't find anyone around here, maybe we have to call the previous collaborators and tell them to come here or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, thank you a lot.
Maybe I have one observation looking at all three of the cases, which is, I think, quite interesting. That AgroPlaza, you particularly look at how to simplify, make easily maintainable the system, and to change and Designscapes focus on building a long-term cooperation and dialogue with the community. So it's kind of, you need both. You need to both look at the system and you need to look at that whole dialogue, engagement, stakeholder network. And that kind of complements, and they're continuously reflecting upon one another in a way. I'm still making sense of this, but it's interesting to see this in your projects. So that was just a small observation from the sidelines.
Thank you, Aldo.
Thank you, Aldo. Okay, so we have now 15 minutes to finish up the template. So this will be more about looking at what you did already and how, oh, a template disappeared. I know. About, yeah, what's different now that could represent newer tasks to accomplish. So I will start the timer now. And then from that moment on, when we're done, we can all share in the big circle in the middle what we had in common so far in this activity and think about how to further take action for that.
Okay.
I was muted again. So yes, I said I see that pretty much everyone is finished. But yeah, of course I don't want to put pressure. So if Elisa, for example, I see she's detailing something, just go ahead.
It's okay. It was just to put, making the Postits to put it in the center.
Oh, okay. All right, then we can start doing the opposite round. So we can start with you. If you can just guide us really quick from, let's say, maybe from question number 4 onwards. So what are the differences that you found? So the new aspects in your projects, what you need to take into account and what you must do. And then maybe you can end up putting your challenges into the shared template. So then the others can also see them, and maybe in the meantime start doing the same.
Okay, so do I start?
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
Okay, so yes, I picked the task of designing the furniture, thinking about how it is going to be used. And I was thinking about in what circumstances I had it before, because we have already done like a lot of agronautas projects. That's where the previous, we made like a lot of small prototypes of this kind of furniture in a lot of different places. So we have done it like alone, like many times in some, not really this case, but very similar. So what was easy? Yeah, so that I think that when you are designing something, like for me, the most difficult thing is to find like for each place, like in some way, like the perfect or the design you like most or something, no? Like the idea that you think about it and you say, yeah, this is perfect. No, this goes well in this place, and with all the resources we have, that this really fits into this. And I find like afterwards, it's easier just to go on and just detailing this idea, this thing. So yes, so that is. And when you make participation projects, also this idea comes from the people. So yes, it's so beautiful, that part. And yeah, and well, in other situation, we normally make these prototypes by self-building. No, we build them ourselves. So this time it's going to be easier because we are going to have people that can build them. And yeah, and how's the current task? What we have to tackle different? Like in previous situations, the projects we did were were smaller, or well, in Agroplaza it was bigger, but it was we had like very little time. It was like in 1 month we had to design, 1.5 months with designs and build all the projects. So it was like crazy. So this time we have more time. And in this case, well, we have more economical resources in some place than in other agronautas projects. So we can have more professionals and enterprises that work with us. And the things that are that are going to be different, I put them also in green and red, because I found some of them were better and some of them were worse.
Yeah, I noticed, yeah.
Yeah. So I put like, for example, this time we are in, what I said before, that we are in a public space. So it's going to be more difficult also to meet, because it's different also to work with a community than with a neighborhood. Because community, you can talk to the users, like the specific users, and you can talk directly to them. But in a neighborhood, you talk to some of them. So sometimes you do something that the rest of the people of the neighborhood don't like, and so it's a little more difficult. And and also this thing about working in that is different, to work in the real public space. And also because as we are going to be in the public space, for example, if we make a cover place, we are going to, like, the rules of the public space are going to be like stronger, no? That maybe we have to make like a specific project or to, I don't know, to talk to the city hall and all that.
Mm.
And yeah, so what we have to take into account, I think it's the balance between innovation, neighborhood needs, and low maintenance. Maybe
Okay, it's a big one.
And yeah, what we must do is I think Arnaldo said it before, no? This idea of making it simple, no? We must make it simple and just try to balance all these things and try to think what is the simplest and also the best.
Okay. Okay, so I would say, well, thanks first. And if you want to place, what do you think were your challenges that you found throughout the activity? Maybe this last, oh, I see already some.
Yeah, I make these, but I don't know if I have to take more from the...
No, I think I see already some. So I think that's fine. Yeah, don't worry. Just maybe put the, no, we don't need the name. So it's perfectly fine. We can super quickly go through Julia's and what you found as different from your previous experience. So what you found new in this challenge now in scaling this project and what you must do. And then we can go on, I think, with directly to the shared template.
I think I can relate with what Elisa was saying about the scale of the project that is a bit different. So before we are usually working also with small community that are close by, also geographically speaking to our office, and we can have like a day-to-day debate with them.
Yeah.
So that makes us more clear with the role that we have as an office and also with the trust that is built with them. So for example, I was remembering a successful project that was also based on crowdfunding. That means that the community wanted to give us money to develop that project because by being super involved in all their phases, they were sure that we would spend those money in the right way. And through this attachment to the community, we were able also to obtain support from institutions and from the local government. So starting really small and then going up. In this case, I feel like we are not right now as familiar as we were with other topics because we are entering in the topic of entrepreneurship, on journey with talents and etc., which is part of our knowledge, but we never had big project about it. So when we are communicated, it's not as clear that we are into that realm. So I have the feeling that it's going to be a bit more hard to gain the trust of the participant and also of the donors that can relate to this. Also because, as we were saying before, we don't have this in-person relationship that was built toward years of that. And when I was thinking about the current tasks and how we have to achieve it, so when I'm thinking about the stakeholders involved, in this case, we have a large territory because we are talking about all the region of Sicily, not the city of Palermo anymore. And which means that they are spread and also we don't know them personally. Before, the resources that we were using were also activities that are connected only to like getting to know each other better. We were organizing dinner and other things with the community, which I think is not applying, for example, in this context. So we have to change our approach. Before also, as I was saying, the situation were happening in real time. We knew each other by name and there was another type of relationship. And the knowledge that we had on that project was also really rooted. What does it mean? That we were also aware of their problem in terms of lack of trust in the public institution, lack of trust in other agencies that were not like before. And understanding what is their trust issue was helping us to like respond better to their requests. So right now, what I was actually thinking is that every time we were communicating with them, since we were really clear that they didn't trust institutions, so we couldn't use big a statement or adding too much layer to one proposal. We needed to be super clear and straightforward, and actually to present only the layer that we knew that it was relevant for them. I mean, in that project, we wanted to help kids to stay out of troubles because there was a dropout in school. We were talking about street art. The layer that we were presenting was only, let's make together better murales around this neighborhood. But we were not putting the layer of school education and whatever, because in that moment was not relevant for them. So what came to my mind doing this exercise is that what we have to understand right now is how to easily communicate the primary goal for each one of the target, in order that we are tackling primarily their needs, and not all the kind of blabbering that we did while participating to a European project, because European project, like many layers, here we have to be much more straightforward. And the main thing that we should do is like to connect and explore the need of the target without assuming their desire. For example, now I'm thinking that we assume that green jobs is going to be the main aspect that we have to tackle, but I would like to rethink about that, because I think it's my assumption and we have to verify that is actually coming from the community. And when I'm thinking about the main maybe things that I can share is also to understand the current fear of our community and our target, because not only understanding the need or what is presented, but also understanding how they present the fears that they have can help us to make more effective communication and build trust around the project.
Okay. Really interesting. All right. So I hope, okay, I see a bunch of Post-its already over here. Amazing. So yeah, well, I was about to say let's cluster them, but I see you went faster. So once you feel you have
Should
put,
I
sorry,
touch it briefly on the ones I pasted? So because
yes,
maybe for
indeed, I
Elisa
was
and
about,
Julia, it's a bit
if you want to go through indeed yours.
Super quickly, because sorry, because there's like within the cluster there's probably gonna be commonalities. So I was playing with the green Post-its, and if you look at the darker green one, that was kind of like my main insights, and then I just distilled them a bit more in a way in the light green one. So that was how I thought, but that maybe doesn't work for the cluster. But yeah, so I, being really brief, in this last part of the exercise, it was super interesting because I had not thought about the problem, the milestone or the challenge that I had in mind all along. I never thought about it based on from this lens. So thinking, have I done something similar in the past? So I thought another time that I've worked on producing resources and trying to engage a community of practitioners of strategic design, basically. And how in that time it was way easier in a way because I was one of them. So I was part of the community, and I started from a lot of personal relationships already built in that community. So it was way easier to engage people to participate, to create the trust and things like that. But that thinking about it has helped me a lot to map the main challenges that we have ahead. And if you go to the dark green Post-its, I had to find ways of handling with the fact that now there are many differences between the community. So it's not like in before, because everybody was a strategic designer and they were almost in the same stage of their career, and all that things were really similar, their challenges, their interests. And now with the community of initiatives, each group, each team is in a different stage of the project, and their project tackle different issues, and they have all these kind of like big differences. But at the same time, they have a lot of commonalities, and we have to understand better those and highlight them. So that's why I had help build relationships in the community and facilitate matchmaking between the initiatives that share common objectives, milestones, or challenges and approaches. And then I also thought, thinking back in that work I had done with the other community, that it was all about having a couple of valuable activities or events, and people would, if people would find them valuable for them, they would trust you a bit more, and then they would start participating more consistently. And once you have that kind of consistent participation is when people could create contacts and expand their network and get to that sweet spot of, okay, we feel like there's a community going on here. So I thought, okay, I really have to highlight the value of participating, and an important thing of that is also to have consistent communication and engagement with the community. Yeah, and I think that was a bit, I was all over the place, but that was a bit the insight for me by thinking about these differently this time around. Yeah, by comparing it with that other experience I had.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Yeah, I see indeed. Looking at the shared template, there are quite a bit of commonalities indeed, like talking about commonalities. So, well, I was curious to see. So we have three, let's say, that we thought of as prompting questions, but of course, if you have something else in mind, just please feel free to add. Questions to prompt us to think about how to tackle, or what could possible be strategies to tackle these clustered challenges that we are finding, that we all share. So maybe I would first ask you to indeed maybe choose one cluster, and maybe in group trying to find out what is in there that needs to be tackled, and then hence, for example, what could be possible strategies, or what could be actors or stakeholders who could have experience with a similar challenge that indeed could help overcoming them. I see the most mixed one is probably engaging with the community and building trust. But yeah, feel free to start with whichever you want.
Yeah, well, I can say that I already found interesting the point of the layers of communication and how you have to be smart at choosing what is the part of your objective of what you are offering to the community that you need to share at that point, because you don't have to share everything all the time, probably. And that's honestly something I had not thought about in terms of how to keep someone engaged and build trust bit by bit. But yeah, my main doubt now is about that, how to build trust. And yeah.
Maybe I can add something. One of the experiences of one of the projects in my own urban prototype mapping Designscapes, which was the landmarks net in Thessaloniki. And Elisa, I also was interested in what you said about the neighborhood and the community, and how hard it was to get the neighborhood going, basically. And what the landmarks net did is they had an idea of kind of reviving 10 abandoned, kind of neglected urban spaces, green spaces, like old parks or just corners somewhere in a bad neighborhood, and make them alive with greenery, etc. And before COVID, the idea was to get into co-creation workshops with all the stakeholders and experts, etc., etc. And of course, all of that kind of failed. And then we kind of moved it in a different direction, that citizens could come up with their own proposals by having kind of an online kit that they could create their own sketches of how they envisioned that space to be. And it was really a great success. City Hall was involved, the local newspapers were involved. And I think they got about 50 submissions. And of course, it's still, because of COVID, it's hard to meet and do things with them as a follow-up. But what's interesting is that really citizens in their own kind of amateur ways really got a voice. They could really show their vision, crude as it was, of how they would like it to be. So these are kind of boundary spanning artifacts between communities, within communities, neighborhoods. It gives people really the chance to come up with their own ideas, to be seen, to become owner of that process. So I was thinking, given that we are about design-enabled innovations, what kinds of boundary artifacts might connect all of this, what's kind of in this common space that you have come up with all these great notes, and what kind of processes from elicitation to making sense of what it means to actually doing, and then in the scaling up phase to actually start building them. So as a very practical thing, I might suggest that you get in touch with the Landmarks.net guys. They're always interested, but that's just a practical thing. But I'm now more talking about the philosophical thing of, I really have that feeling that the right kind of boundary artifacts embedded in a whole web of community and neighborhood and city relationships and interactions and processes, that might be one way to gain and build that trust that's really sustainable, if you know what I mean. That's kind of from the hip observation.
Yeah, super. I think really valuable, Aldo, to think in terms of the boundary object, like you say, because I think it's such a crucial. Okay, I'm thinking about it as it's such a crucial thing of building the community, to find that space where you allow that community to happen, or like where you allow them to participate. I'm not so sure we found that. So yeah, I will definitely think about the example. Yeah.
It's interesting. I was thinking, but then I don't know if it deviates too much, that, for example, the project of Elisa somehow can be seen to some extent as trying to build a boundary object that puts together the needs of different actors and lets them, in a way, enact them and show them, right? So by having, for example, the use of the square that they want to have, I mean, now I don't know the details, but and the need of energy supply and these kind of things, it can indeed a way be seen as a project that aims to build this object, which is a boundary between many.
Yeah, maybe it's not even one boundary object, but a whole kind of suite or an ecology of boundary objects. Like in the Landmarks case, these kinds of, that initially we didn't have, or they didn't have that in view, to have these very rough kind of online citizen first rough drafts. And of course, in the end, if you really want to have an impact on that local community, you do need the real co-creation workshops with the experts, and you get all kinds of much more advanced prototypes and scaled whatever implementations. But you need that whole range, and that might be interesting to play with. Would there be a typology that we could develop across different projects that in different stages, and maybe in one context you need to focus more on, let's say, the citizen generated boundary objects. In another case you need the more specialized ones, or maybe you need them both. So I think that it's a wide open territory, I think, for research.
I was curious to ask to everyone then, if you were to choose now one big cluster maybe, or one big challenge that you would like to solve, and to take the chance of reflecting with each other on what could be next steps to tackle it, like concretely, which one would you choose, and then which steps could we imagine to get a sort of an idea of actionable plans out of this session as well before we leave?
I think it's difficult to choose one. Maybe, Alberto, is it possible to do like a super brief round?
Yeah.
To the 4 clusters. Well, we've been talking about engaging with the community, but on abstract terms. No, because I was reading the different ones, and I'm thinking, yeah, I would be interested in getting help in all of them.
Okay, So then should I go through quickly all of them? All right,
That's
then
okay for the rest. Yeah.
I'll start from the bottom left. So it's a matter of communication cluster. And all around here we have understanding the fears of the community to build effective communication, which is tailored to their needs, and hence finding the needs of them despite and not relying on our own assumptions. So, and also finding ways to easily communicate to these target groups in a really straightforward way. So I think with this build connects to the layers that we mentioned before. So we need to learn the challenges of the context to be able to respond to their needs and concerns. I think this one is in common with the following cluster. But we also had consistency in communication. So from Alicia, and engagement with the community, which also helps to build relationships and highlight, in a way it connects then to the following cluster, which is engaging the community, that asks us to establish, to highlight the value of participating, establishing trust with the communities, talk publicly to the people, of course, and then establishing these new relationships first. So before acting, which can be tricky indeed in such a big project. And having the issue now that we have less personal relationships, everything is online, and we might also, due to scaling, go into contexts that are not so familiar as the previous ones in which we were more used to act upon. On the bottom right, we have lack of specific knowledge. So,
but sorry, Alberto.
Yes.
Sorry to intervene. I meant to go together, so to see if we had any input about them. Because yeah. Because I know we are running out of time, so just to, instead of focusing on discussing one, if we could briefly touch on things. Because for example, I was just because I see the questions about and easily communicate to the target group in a straightforward way, but also finding the needs of the community. So I wonder if, for example, for Elisa, they have already done that kind of like field work or like user research to understand the people, and if for Julia, that's something that they are somehow struggling with, or they see as a challenge to come. And I was wondering to what have you guys done in that term so far, and what maybe, because I know those are Julia's Postits, what may be the main insecurity about that moving ahead.
I can say that right now we are still in a phase of mapping them, so we didn't contact them. Basically, we contacted some of them that they gave us the contact of others. So we are like mapping that as a passive exercise from their point of view. So then understanding which type of actors they are and to customize the communication with them is going to be a step that we need to take. Still, we didn't do anything in that realm. So maybe, as many other things in life, when you start doing it, you realize that it's not so hard. But maybe because we didn't start yet, I feel a bit overwhelmed, like, okay, how do we start a conversation with them? So maybe I'm also exaggerating when I say that it's stressing out, but I think it's something important, the communication, because can really set the terrain on every type of relationship that you're building upon.
Yeah. And Elisa, do you have any experiences?
Yeah. Yeah, in this, as maybe it's also what Julia said, that for us, as we have already done some meetings with the local agents and everything. So this, although we still have this idea that when we make the sessions, we talk to some of the agents, but not with all the neighborhood. Even when we have also a an online questionnaire, no? Like an online, how do you say it? Like some questions that can answer. So we have already asked like the whole neighborhood, but for us, the communication with the community and this topic of building trust and communication with the community is more or less started. Also, although we have we can have some doubts about how it's going on, and if we are meeting everyone, and if we are taking all the because also when you talk just with some of the agents, maybe they have like very clear ideas of what they want, but maybe it's the ideas of some of these people, no? And then the rest of the people is thinking about no, because for example, we are talking with the people that organizes the festivals, like the local festivals of the neighborhood. So they really want some things for the festivals and everything, but okay, it's because they organize the festivals, you know? So sometimes you don't really know if it is something the whole neighborhood wants, or it's just these people. So yeah, and talking about the whole thing, not like the other topics, I think also that, as Yula said, that we are also more worried about the thing about the design and the what we are going to design and everything, because it's like the next step we have to take. So as we cannot do it until we have the results of the co-creation session, we are really like, and we wanted to do this session before, like in the end of September, but because of COVID and everything, it's also later than we thought. So we are also like we really want to start with this other phase, and that's why also I think we are a little worried that we want to start with the design.
Yeah,
that is also what happens. But I think it will go as soon as we know as soon as we meet, because we really want to meet the people and get the ideas from them, to really, like what we are thinking about is the same that they are thinking about. Or maybe we go to the co-creation session and we go out from there and saying, okay, we were thinking about making another kind of furniture, So we really are looking forward to the session this Thursday. Yeah.
Is there any other challenge that someone would like to discuss further, or maybe even to propose as a topic to explore in the next coffee meeting, for example? Something that for you is really important, and you feel that today maybe we didn't have the time enough to explore further, but would really be important to take and bring forward. If you were to sum up from today, let's say.
For us, for example, we were proposing in the to make a journey map for the users to know how they are going to, and we don't really, as we have never used that tool. For example, for me, we have like some doubts about the tools you propose. I think they are really interesting, and we have proposed to use them in order also to know how they work and to learn. But yeah, for example, we have some doubts about how to, I don't know, I would like to see some examples, or for us it would be useful.
Yeah.
How to adapt them to our case.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like in our case.
Take journey mapping and adapt it to your questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because also, as we are also like adapting another prototype, I don't know, like the case, like this scaling phase, and at the same time using the tools. Sometimes like, but we think, do we really need to do this, to use this tool, or we are just using it because you suggested it and we want to use it? No, but maybe it's not so useful this time. Some doubts like that. Like,
That's a good discussion. I think, like, what's the what looks can we look what tools can we look at that are meant, or like we expect them to be meaningful in scaling, but also that you have to adjust them so that they are meaningful for that phase, because it's not, again, it's not the really early on starting to understand the context and the problem and the user, but now you have a new context, so you also have to do some new understanding, some new engagement of the community, some new like we had the Postit understanding of the needs of the community, but also the fears. So yeah, we can have a session in the coffee break where we discuss a bit experiences like that and some tips.
Yeah. And it would be indeed really super interesting to have, let's say, on your side, what are the tools that you kind of can bring to the coffee table in a way. So if from one side, what was in the toolkit was this, but you already talked about that in previous prototypes you've used other ones. So we are definitely curious to know which ones, and from your experiences, what works and what doesn't.
Right.
All right. So it's 12. And I wanted to ask you briefly, just to sum up, a quick feedback and your considerations on the overall activity. So how did you experience it overall? I'm sorry that there was not much time left for it. For let's say feedback part, but I hope we managed to give time for sharing and discussion and finding out meaningful things and reflections about your project. So just was curious to know your impressions on the session and your opinions on that.
If I can start, I would say that sometimes having like a guided tool like this one that you proposed to us is a bit like doing therapy. And I think it was really helpful because somehow when I started like the first part, I was feeling like afraid on how we are going to tackle the other part. And then the more you reflect on what you did in the past, what it was working and what you can adapt, you're like, no, actually, I know what I have to do. I mean, I need a bit of help and I'm going to be better in asking for help, but it's not something that is impossible to do. So I found it actually therapeutic to do this journey with you. Thank you for that.
Oh, don't worry. Thank you for sharing that.
I think that's the best you can hear. That someone finds it slightly therapeutic in the process.
It was really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Julia. It's very that you feel better after, because it's something you have there in your mind and you don't really know how to do it, and it's also I really like this idea of facing it, to really and have some time to think about it, and really, because you have like the fear there, but maybe you think, well, I will think about it afterwards. And I really like this idea of thinking about what you don't really know how to do, or what are your difficulties, and just facing them. And after you think a little about them, you feel more prepared, more ready to go over them. So great.
All right, I'm really glad to hear that. Aldo?
Yeah, well,
as observer.
I love the therapy metaphor. So group therapy. That's I never looked at it that way, but thank you, Julia. That's a great way of thinking about sense making. And if I may reflect also upon what we did in mapping Designscapes, which in a way was funny because we also had 3 cases there, so it was kind of similar in scale. Maybe one observation, both here and in mapping Designscapes, was really that what we do in these kinds of design-enabled innovation projects in really urban or societal settings where they really have or are supposed to have impact on people's lives, it's about as complex as it gets. I mean, design itself is difficult if you look at simple between quotation marks, HCI with a computer and a small group. But if you look at design to have really collective impact on a society, it's even orders of magnitude more complex. So it's so easy to drown, and as you get paralyzed, and you need therapy as a group, as a team, because you just get stuck. Where do you start? Everything is in flux, nothing is clear, everything is fuzzy. And I think that therapy, what we saw in mapping Designscapes, it doesn't really matter so much what you get started to talk about, whether it's how you use a particular tool or the kind of problems, political problems you're dealing with, or kinds of community conflicts or whatever. As long as you have something to look at together, whether it's a map or an artifact or a Post-it, or it doesn't matter, you get started, you start to relate. Conversation gets you somewhere at a deeper level of grounding, in a way, that you get your own priorities straight, because you can't do it all anyway. But you get a sense of the weights, of the priorities, of the foci, of what really matters in your own project by actually talking about somebody else's project. That's also funny. That's what we saw time and time again. So I think this whole process of reflection, sense making, therapy, whatever you want to call it, I think that's absolutely crucial. And it's not about, I think it's a qualitative process, it's not about quantity, because a lot of us coming from computer science and information science backgrounds, it's always about creating these ultimate knowledge models and ontologies and data models that capture supposedly the whole world. No, it's never possible. You're just groping in the dark and getting footing somewhere and do something and have a little impact there. That's basically what design-enabled innovation, in my view, is about. So this really helps to get that footing and do your little thing, and then somebody else does the next project, and this is how you scale in a kind of organic way. So now I'm getting very philosophical, sorry about that. That's kind of my gut feeling about all of this.
Nice.
Thank you, Aldo.
Okay. So I think to wrap it up, I really thank you a lot for joining us for this session. It was really, really interesting, really insightful, and thanks a lot for this last feedbacks and metaphors that described also what was the effect of the activity. I'm really glad you made my day. And and yeah, then hope to see you also tomorrow for our coffee break. So having a break and taking a coffee and sharing more and more about how to make these projects work.
Thank you, guys. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Alberto.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.